So, you're getting ready for the GCP Professional Data Engineer Renewal exam. You're in exactly the right place. We're going to cut right through all the noise and focus on what has actually changed and what you really need to know to pass this thing.
All right, here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the exam's new focus, what they really care about now. Then we'll dive into the key governance and integration tools, break down some real-deal exam scenarios, and we'll wrap it all up with a super fast checklist of stuff you absolutely have to know.
First up, let's talk about the single biggest change here. It's the whole philosophy of the exam. It's moved way beyond just testing if you know how to connect the pipes. This is about architecture now.
Okay, just look at this. The weight for ingesting and processing, that's your basic data flow, pub/sub stuff. It drops from a quarter of the exam all the way down to just 10%. The message here could not be clearer. They expect you to know the basics already. This exam is all about whether you can think like an architect, not just an implementer.
So if the focus is really on architecture, what's the new core? Well, it's this, the modern, unified data governance stack. These services are the new center of gravity, and they enable all the sophisticated federated data architectures you're going to get tested on.
The first pillar of this new world is Dataplex. So when you see an exam question that's talking about managing a decentralized data world or discovering data assets or tracking data lineage automatically, your brain should just scream Dataplex. It's that single pane of glass for all your data governance.
Next up, we've got Big Lake. This is your ticket to a modern lakehouse architecture. The big idea here is that it lets you query files sitting right in cloud storage, like Parquet or CSV files, as if they were just native BigQuery tables. You get all of BigQuery's awesome row and column level security. And the best part? You don't have to move a single byte of data. And our third pillar here is Analytics Hub. Listen, if a question asks you about sharing datasets with other teams or even other companies, and it stresses being low maintenance and cost-effective, just forget about messing with complex IAM policies on individual datasets. That's the old way. Analytics Hub is the modern and correct answer. And here is where the magic happens. This is how it all clicks together to create a true data mesh. You've got Dataplex giving you that centralized governance, Big Lake letting you query everything right where it lives, and Analytics Hub handling the secure, federated sharing. This right here is the architectural pattern that the renewal exam is testing you on. Okay, now let's see how this modern stack completely changes the game for data transformation. The exam has totally new expectations for how you build your pipelines. And trust me, the old ways are now just there to trick you. First, let's talk SQL transformations. Yeah, the days of just scheduling some ad hoc SQL scripts with cron are over. Dataform is the new standard. It lets you build, test, and version control all your BigQuery ELT workflows, just like you would with application code.
And here is the absolute key takeaway for the exam. When a scenario asks about embedding data quality checks, I'm talking about checking for nulls or making sure keys are unique right inside your pipeline. Dataform assertions are the most efficient, built-in way to do it, period.
This same serverless first thinking applies to change data capture, or CDC. If you get a question about replicating a database like Oracle or Cloud SQL into BigQuery, you need to avoid any answer that involves managing your own Kafka clusters. DataStream is the native, serverless, and correct choice.
Okay, theory's great, but let's see how these new ideas actually show up on the test. We're going to deconstruct a couple of scenarios that are based directly on the official sample questions from Google. So here's a classic disaster recovery question. The second you see a requirement for a 15-minute recovery point objective, an RPO, for data in cloud storage, your mind should immediately just lock onto one answer, a dual region bucket with turbo replication enabled. It's literally designed for exactly this scenario.
And look, here's that CDC pattern we were just talking about. The scenario is about getting data from Cloud SQL to BigQuery. But the key phrase, the thing that tells you the answer, is keep the load on the Cloud SQL databases to a minimum. That immediately rules out things like federated queries, which can really hammer the source database. DataStream is the perfect fit. It's serverless CDC with minimal impact.
All right, let's bring it home with a rapid-fire review. This is your final checklist of technical details that you absolutely, positively must have locked and loaded before you click that Start Exam button.
Okay, you've got a data flow pipeline, it's running slow, and you can't figure out why because the optimizer has fused all the steps together. The tool you need to know to debug this is the reshuffle operation. It forces a boundary so you can actually see the performance of each individual step.
Next scenario, you've got these slow, super expensive, and highly repetitive aggregation queries running on massive BigQuery tables. The most cost-effective and highest-performing solution is to use materialized views. They basically pre-calculate and store those results for you.
If you need to securely connect an application to Cloud SQL, especially one with a dynamic IP address, like something on Cloud Run or even your own laptop, the correct security pattern is to use the Cloud SQL auth proxy and, this is key, leave the authorized networks list completely empty. And finally, the old way of buying fixed BigQuery slot commitments. That's on its way out. The modern way to manage BigQuery capacity and get cool features like auto-scaling slots is through BigQuery editions. You need to know their Standard, Enterprise, and Enterprise Plus. This is a big change.
So, what's the bottom line here? The exam has definitely evolved. It's not about isolated services or just moving data from A to B anymore. It is all about your ability to design cohesive, modern, and efficient data platforms using Google Cloud's latest and greatest tools.
We've really focused on the delta, what's new, and what's most important. You now have that focused knowledge to go in there and nail these new architectural questions. Remember, you're not just renewing a piece of paper, you're proving you can architect the future of data on Google Cloud. Good luck.